Ladies and gentlemen, pleasure to be back providing you an update on our activities. Thanks to Phil and Des for the opportunity. And look, and as the caption of the presentation suggests, this is all about our uranium opportunities in Tanzania. But it'd be remiss of me not to, and I will come back to it later in the presentation, our Kunji Park project, copper zinc project in northeastern Western Australia, which we're very excited about as well. But at the moment, it's all about uranium in Tanzania. I'll spend a couple of slides just taking you through some of my observations of the uranium market, and there's plenty of material that you can pick up, but we're in a position where we're very close to a 15-year high in the uranium price, and there doesn't seem to be any indication that that price is going to fall. We've had a period of time of 10 years of underinvestment in the uranium exploration and development. That's obviously changing at a rapid rate. You're finding the utilities are now looking at longer term pricing and contract arrangements, which is also putting a base under the price. Probably the World Nuclear Association, and this is their November report, so it's very current, but that stat for me just underpins what's happening in the nuclear reactor space. So you're looking at potentially a doubling of the current 436 operating reactor capacity around the world with what's under construction and being planned and proposed. And then just a little cherry on the top of the cake, the WNA just chipped in that the 2023 uranium requirement's been increased by 8.2 million pounds. The small modular reactors is another emerging story. If you get the opportunity to have a look at those, there's a lot going on, and I'm sure the SMR will be quite a common known terminology going forward. And then obviously some of the larger investors are getting involved. Sprott's in Canada they've been there for some time, but they're a heavy investor in the uranium market. Compliments to Paladin Energy. They presented this particular table, but earlier this year, and what grabbed my attention was that they've actually backed out the Russian and associated elements in the world uranium supply and demand space, and so that provides you with a fairly stark indication of what we can expect in terms of Western capacity to supply the growing demand for nuclear energy. So as I indicated, we're in Tanzania. I was in Tanzania at a mining conference a few weeks ago, and 2017 they seriously blotted their copybook by changing the mining laws overnight and causing a severe amount of disruption. But the clear takeaway from the attendance at the conference in the last few weeks is that the government are fully focused on supporting the mining sector, and there was, Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, ministers, all sorts of people there, and importantly the big mining companies, BHP, Rio Tinto had a significant contingent of people there. So there's a lot happening in Tanzania, and what I really felt was that there's a number of opportunities. There's all sorts of minerals being explored and developed in that country, and if for no other reason, you look at the geographical location of Tanzania, pointing straight up at India and Asia and China. So we think there's a lot to happen in Tanzania. Obviously, with our Tanzanian-born chairman, Asimwe Kabunga, he's lives in Perth now, but he knows his way around Tanzania. So they set a target. The government a couple of years ago set a target that mining would be a 10% contributor to the GDP by 2025, and they were suggesting that they've already hit that target now. So there's plenty happening in Tanzania. What I'd also suggest is that the three projects that we've acquired, and I'll go into them in a bit more detail. Mukuju is our primary focus at the moment. Manyoni Itigi is another one in central Tanzania, and then Mapanda Karima is a greenfields copper play. But in terms of the uranium projects, what I need to emphasise is these are not greenfield plays, where Mukuju, as you'll see shortly, is situated right next to a world-class uranium deposit that's called Noosa. Manyoni has been the subject of a substantial amount of previous drilling. It's got an existing resource estimate, albeit to 2004 JORC, but there's existing areas that just need additional work. But as I say, we're not moving into elephant country. So Mukuju, there's a lot to like about this. And as I say, Mukuju our tenure package sits immediately to the southeast of the Noosa project, it's now owned by Uranium One, which is a subsidiary of the Rosatom Russian organisation. But it's a massive uranium deposit that was actually sold by a Perth company in 2011 for over $1 billion. So we've got all of the ground to the southeast of Noosa, and as part of that, the work that Mantra undertook, not just with Noosa, but they spent quite a bit of time on the ground that we now have. So that's giving us quite a deal of a head start in terms of where we need to go. And then the next slide indicates that in 2007, Mantra undertook a major radiometric survey across the whole area. Our tenure package is about 730 square kilometres, which sits over a lot of that, the radiometric anomaly. We've commenced a couple of months ago, we've started soil sampling, rock chip sampling, a small auger drill activity which basically sits on the back of a light vehicle, and we're about to mobilise a diamond rig. So we're looking to produce some results to the market. We've got the handheld spectrometers and XRF units already in the field, so we'll have some immediate results over the coming weeks, and then obviously as assays come through over the next couple of months into the new year. But we've got a major area, a target area to attack, and there's some additional areas which I won't mention too much about at the moment, but we're looking to really expand and go into next year with a major series of targets. Manyoni, I just mentioned that very quickly. That's in the central part of Tanzania. We do have a couple of issues there. We had two of our licences revoked by the Mining Commission earlier this year, which we're still working through and hopefully be able to resolve shortly. But again, as I mentioned, that's got an existing resource deposit on it. Just briefly, the Tanzanian copper interests over to the west near Lake Tanganyika. So it's an area, historic artisanal style, small-scale copper mining has taken place over there. So look, that's an opportunity that we'll consider, but obviously not the primary focus while we're working at Mukuju. As I mentioned, Kunji Park, the project in northeastern Western Australia, we're very, very excited about this project and looking forward to being able to move it forward from the scoping study findings that we established earlier this year. It's situated just outside of the township of Halls Creek, and the actual deposits themselves are no more than a lazy 9-iron from the Highway 1. So we're very excited about that project, but unfortunately at the moment, funding as it is, we need to focus in Tanzania. So there's a quick summary of the investment highlights. In terms of uranium, we're sitting on projects that have already been explored. In terms of Mukuju, it's right next door to world-class Noosa deposit. We've already established strong connections in the Tanzanian environment, and I don't need to tell anybody in terms of what's happening in the uranium market. That's just a brief summary of our board. And don't be too concerned about the cash position. We just completed a placement earlier this week, so we've got sufficient funding to keep us going into next year. And that's just the final little slide. If you do get an opportunity to get over to that part of the world, grab it with both hands because it's a fascinating place. That's my contact details, and I've got a booth outside, and more than happy to tell you a few more stories about Tanzania. I do need to grab Rob. I really appreciated his presentation, but I need to get him a glass of red wine later on this afternoon so I can get him on. I'll get our company onto his uranium list. So, but no, very encouraged with what we've got in front of us, and look forward to catching up with you if you wanted to have a chat. Thank you.